And we are live, and welcome to a very special edition of what is now called CAD Live, which is my 3 times a week live stream show, because I'm joined by none other than Mr. Jon Fitch.
None other. What's going on, man? It's good to be here, Troy.
It's really, really good to see you, man. And listen, I'm just getting a little bit of feedback here, so I'm just going to change something here. Sorry about this.
Technology.
This is terribly unprofessional, man.
I mean, it's a part of it. It's a part of it. It's a part of it. Like I have so many issues with, I mean, we're talking to each other live from different parts of the world. It's pretty amazing. a little lag isn't that big of a deal, But yeah, I've been doing this podcasting thing for a little bit, and it's always something. You upgrade, it's a piece of your equipment or whatever, and then everything gets thrown off, and then you got to do a month of trial and error to figure it out. Yeah. I upgraded my monitor. Exactly. I went from an old flat screen TV to a 4K monitor, and like everything fell apart, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I needed an adapter that had a plug-in, so it'd have its own power source. Just like something as stupid as that.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, I keep updating bits and pieces, and then I do something, and then something else goes, and then I have to go back and do something else, and it's just But this is the trials and tribulations of the live streamer. So
But it's a great example of just life in general. Like it's never easy. You never do anything. It's like, oh, I got it. Like it's a shitload of failures after failure after failure, and then finally you'll get something half right. And like the thing that separates everybody else from the people who are successful are the ones who don't let the failures bother them. They focus on the little half wins.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you said something we were both on the Rule Zero show. I think it was just last Saturday, actually, when you were on, and you said something that really resonated with me, which was a bit like you said, you weren't afraid to take L's, if you like. You weren't afraid to take losses in your career, and I guess in your broader life as well. You're happy to, in a sense, to embrace that, right? Because it's only in doing that you're going to see the successes as well.
Yeah, like you're not gaining anywhere. You're not going anywhere if you're not failing. You didn't try. You didn't try, and that's where a lot of the haters come from. Is there people who never tried and they want to tear you down for trying. Because they have internalized some hate on themselves, really, because they never actually tried.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like this particular space that we're inhabiting now is obviously filled with haters, but I mean your space as well. The broader.
It's like some of the worst of the worst. Some of the worst of the worst people are MMA fans.
Yeah.
Like somebody who's never done anything. People who struggle to take a shower every day. Will like show clips of me getting knocked out once. Like that's somehow like an insult. Like, okay, I was a professional athlete in a professional sport where it's very high risk and that's a possible outcome. So 10 of those knockouts are better than one of your lives.
It is incredible sometimes what people will hate on, and the kinds of people it's kind of like they will hate on people who are at the absolute top of their game. And I mean, you've had an incredible career.
People talking shit on Tiger Woods.
Well, exactly. But I mean, we should take a moment just to celebrate your career, because you've had an incredible career. One of the most prominent, welterweight MMA fighters ever. Really been in the game for 18 years. You've had 32 wins. Some incredible sort of like records and so on, sort of racked up over that period of time. And obviously you announced your retirement, I think like 3 days ago now, after the last fight. And just before we came on air, we were saying, I saw your last live stream when you were talking about this, and it seems to me, because you talked about retirement a bit before, hadn't you? You sort of said, I might do, and it's depending on what happens.
I thought about it here and there, because it's the training camps, the amount of effort that it takes to prepare for a fight is immense, and to actually have to do real world things also. Like I'm a father, I have kids, and I don't want to neglect my kids, and I don't want to put them in daycare, and I don't, I want to be there for them. And the time away from having quality time with them because you're training and you're tired or whatever, it's just, so it's been in the back of my mind for a little while. And the return on investment isn't what it could have been because of the monopolization of the sport.
Yeah.
There's a glass ceiling on earning. And
yes.
I can see now that there is a lot more money to be made not getting punched in the face. And if I can have more and better time with my kids and not get punched in the face and have more money and more time and just more of everything, then like that seems like that's a better path to go down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you know, like you've had an incredible career. You feel that you've almost done everything that
I've done it all.
That you wanted to do in that sphere. And so, you know,
gave it my best effort. I did pretty freaking good. I'm happy. I'm content with what I did. Now I can sit back and look at it and be really happy, man. I accomplished a lot of things, more than 40 fights. I fought long enough to where like I fought times where I fought multiple times in one night. I've had 3 times where three different events I fought more than once in a night.
Wow.
That's to me amazing. That's just fun just thinking about that. Like
yeah, that's amazing. And of course, beyond that, I mean, you're also a writer as well. You've got 2 books on Amazon. Mm-hmm. One of which is remind me of the titles. You've got the Failing Upwards.
Yeah, Failing Upward, Death by Ego. It's a reflection on journals that I kept through my whole career. So as I get deeper into those, it's a series of books. I don't have one out, but it'll probably end up being like 5 or 6 books. But like there's going to be a lot of type of red pill knowledge in there too, because I started writing the second one. I'm like 2 chapters deep, and I noticed a really glaring thing in there. It was I was dating, you know, my ex-wife, and it was his girlfriend at the time. And it was the beginning of our relationship, and it was rough. She went away to college, and I was writing about, I don't know if we were going to, you know, stay together. And then she cheated, and then we were about to break up. And then I got into the UFC, and magically everything was good again.
Wow.
And I couldn't see that at the time, but now I'm looking back at it. I'm like, holy fuck. Like,
wow. Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot more of those things, I think, dropping as I go through that.
Yeah, because I suppose, I mean, my experience with this was that although I was always sort of kind of red pill to an extent, when you start reading this stuff and it starts to click into place, then you look back on everything and then you can reassess your life in many ways and say, well, that was why that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. And I think baseline, I was always, I refer to myself because, you know, whatever. I don't like using these terms, but you got to have some kind of placeholder, but like a red pill or a blue pilled alpha. Yeah. So like I think I knew instinctually how things really were, but the conditioning is so strong that you fight against it. And I think a lot of that is in the book too. Like you'll see me like questioning, why do I have these thoughts? Why is sex so important? Why are these things like this? Because the conditioning is it's not supposed to be that way, but the reality is it is.
Yeah. You said something on somebody else's stream actually, and this is, I suppose, we're segueing now, I guess, into talking about the sort of sexual marketplace and all of this kind of thing, which is obviously my wheelhouse, I guess. But you said something really interesting on stream earlier about that I saw, I think either the one you did with John MLD or the one you did with Ryan, but you were saying something along the lines of you were fighting against what your testosterone was telling you a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Like, you have these instincts, you have these things you want to do, but then you have the voice inside your head that tells you, no, that's not the right way to do things. And it can get in the way. And, you know, there's a lot of that conditioning too in business because I was kind of conditioned into this kind of martial artist, humble type of mentality where selling yourself or selling was bad, like making money through sales. You know, and that's insane that I would have had that. And I run into it now with people that I talk to about doing things and doing sales and doing marketing. Like it's conditioned thing into you also. And I think it's probably purposely there to keep people at a lower level, to keep them from rising up. Because if everybody knew that, hey, yeah, this is sales and sales are important. And, you know, the quality of your product is only minusculely important compared to the amount of attention you can get your product. Then a lot of things would change and a lot of people probably make more money and there'd be more competition. So it makes sense why that people get conditioned into thinking that one, making money is bad, and two, doing sales is bad. Yeah,
for sure. And I saw that you were saying that you were contemplating the idea of doing something to help guys in MMA, sort of promoting their personal brand, because that's such a big part of it now.
Yeah. So I mean, like, man, there's guys like you and a lot of guys in this space who don't really have a big, you know, a big organization or a big thing that pushes you out in front. Like, you're self-made. You like, people know who you are because of the work that you've done and the self-promotion that you've done. And you probably have more power and influence than a lot of fighters do who are top tier fighters, because you probably have a stronger email list. You probably have closer, tighter followers who will react, and you have higher conversion rates on products you're putting out than these fighters do, because they have no idea how to do sales or how to market themselves. So I kind of want to take the things that I've learned in the last few years, watching guys who have built themselves up from just like a gym trainer to somebody who's making 6 figures selling courses online. If you can take that to somebody who's fighting on a world stage, you know, like, there's all kinds of possibilities there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in a way, it's almost not sad, but it's sort of like, you feel like it shouldn't be that way around, don't you? You feel like it should be, but unfortunately, the world that we live in, it's kind of, you know, you've got to drive that brand of me thing now, haven't you, in order to.
Part of the problem with MMA is that the promoter is supposed to be the one in charge of that. They're supposed to nurture you. And I've said this a few times, it's getting repetitive, but the promoter is supposed to take the seed, plant the seed, grow the tree, nurture it. The fruit comes, then it takes the fruit and squeezes the fruit. That's what the promoter is supposed to do. That's what they do in boxing. But they don't do that in MMA because the way the monopoly kind of has formed with the UFC and the control and power they have. So now the promoters in MMA, all they want to do is they want to take the juicy fruit and squeeze it. They don't want to plant the seed. They don't want to water it. They don't want to do any of that stuff. So, like, in order to get into certain organizations, they will directly tell you, you need this many followers on these platforms.
Yeah.
If you don't have a buzz around you, if you don't have 1,500, like a low level amateur show will tell you, if you don't have 1,500 Instagram followers, like, you're not popular enough to be on our show, because you're not going to draw any eyeballs in.
Yeah.
So there's a need in the market for MMA to build those guys up so that people can see them and see them year round, because one of the other problems is fighters only fight maybe 1 to 3 times a year. Well, that's 1 to 3 months a year you're going to get pushed by the promoter, and really most of that promotion happens the week of the fight week. So you're really talking about 1 to 3 weeks out of the year that the promoter is actually going to put money and time and effort into promoting you. And if that's all the promotion you're doing for yourself, well, like, you're going to be forgotten. You're not going to build yourself up.
It's kind of interesting, actually, because I was listening to a podcast with, do you know Zuby, the rapper?
Yep. I had him on. Jon Fitch Knows Nothing once.
Yeah. Cool, so I was listening to, he's a cool guy. So I was listening to, he did a show with James Altucher quite recently, the New York podcaster. And I was listening to their show. And the interesting thing about Zuby is that although he's a rapper, he obviously tweets and he creates content about all these different things, like the sexual marketplace, you know, whatever. And maybe it's going to be a similar thing with what you're describing, because in a way, the MMA guys, maybe they're going to they're building out a wider brand rather than just talking about MMA. You're going to have to talk about some other stuff in order to keep people interested.
Yeah. And that's one of the things is kind of developing brand. Like, who are you? Are you just the fighter? What else is there to you? And that's something that I've had to kind of go back and see, like, how am I packaging myself and what am I selling and how am I doing that? What's the image? What is the thing you're putting out there?
Yeah, because I heard some other people asking you talking about, say, red pill content, and they were sort of saying, oh, are your team or the people that, you know, around you, are they all right with that? And you were kind of saying, well, I don't think, you know, you've always been quite outspoken and everything, which I guess is a consideration. But then on the other hand, in a way, I don't think that the kind of stuff that we talk about in this space should be seen as being massively controversial, because all we're really saying is that there's a sort of like, there's one view of how relationships go down, how marriage goes down, etc. The sort of the Disneyfied view. And the truth is that for many people, it's not like that.
It's the idea that that you don't know everything, that nobody knows everything. I don't speak in this space or any space saying, like, I definitively know for a fact everything. I want to talk about ideas and say, hey, well, what about this? How come these things happen? Let's look at this. Let's look at these as empirical evidence. Let's discuss. Let's have discussions. Like, I don't want to debate you. I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to educate myself. I'm trying to learn and grow and be better. And I want to create a better world for my kids. So it seems like there are certain things and certain paths that just seem to work a lot better for people, makes people a lot happier. I think there's a lot of things that are taught as a cope, and just tell people to cope just so that they can avoid their pain rather than accepting the pain, accepting reality for how it is, and then moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. So if you don't mind, if we go into talking about your experience a little bit in terms of your marriage and what happened after that, because I think one of the things that's really interesting about your story, you were married for a long time, about 15 years, I think.
7.5 years of dating and then 7.5 years of marriage. So it was a 15-year relationship.
Yeah. Okay. And obviously you have 2 sons now from that marriage, and you're separated, and the divorce is still going on, or is the divorce?
No, the divorce is finalized.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Great. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to pull out here, because obviously it's an honor to have you on the show, because you have been incredibly prominent as a public figure, as a sports star, as a celebrity. And so many guys would look at a guy like you and they would think, well, surely he's got it made, in the sense, surely somebody referred to you as being like top 5% sexual marketplace, right? So guys would sort of, on the first sight, they think, well, a dude like this, surely like there should be no problems at all, right? Because he's made it. And that wasn't your experience at all.
No, I mean, it's the same. The blue pill ideology is just going to set you up for loss. Like it's the one item mentality. It's making the woman the number one goal, making her happiness is your life goal. I think that is the biggest downfall for a lot of people, because all that does really is drive the girl away, and then it makes you miserable because you're not living your best life. Yeah,
absolutely. So you met your former wife when you were, was it when you were at college, or she was 18?
No, I moved to San Jose and was training at AKA, and she was working here.
Okay.
So we had met then, and she was 18. I went to her high school graduation. Nice. And then things were good. Things went bad when I got started having issues with the UFC, and money became an issue. And then from money becoming an issue, then my social circle shrank, because there was things with I thought certain people in my circle should have acted a certain way. Like, I expect my friends to behave the way I would for them.
Yeah.
So like you start to realize that, certain people in your circle are really just there for the ride, or it's just a business relationship. It's not really a friendship. So like my social circle changed. So that got smaller. So there are other people there's people, the money changed, the social circle changed. So I stopped hanging out with a lot of people I was hanging out with before. And then my status, I think my status level dropped, and then I became depressed. So I think that those 4 things were just too much for her to take. And, me not being happy with her efforts in the relationship, probably, girls don't want to be held accountable for anything. So like she wanted to be the princess. She wanted, hair and nails done all the time, and wanted to keep spending money even though we didn't have money. And, me wanting to hold her accountable was just not gonna go over well. So she split.
And this is the really sad, disappointing thing, isn't it? Because you kind of, when we go into these things, we kind of think, well, the whole thing that we're sold is that we're in it together for life.
Having to hold richer and poorer. Yeah. And then you look now, it's like I've moved past so much of that bullshit, and I'm in such a great place right now. And the world is my oyster right now. And it's like, okay, so she didn't do her part and stick it out the way you're supposed to. So now we got to live in this type of world. But whatever. I mean, that's just me not recognizing maybe red flags earlier is part of that problem too.
Yeah. What about, so how old were you when you met her? Was this before you'd gone into MMA, or was it?
No, I had graduated from Purdue, and I had moved to California. I was probably I was 24 or so.
Right. So it's just about
26. I was 26 when I met her. Yeah.
Okay.
8 years.
And then you sort of hit the big time during the relationship?
Yeah, like it was the first, the first 6 months or so, but within the first 6 months, I had gotten into the UFC.
Wow. Okay.
So she was going to the events, she was going to the clubs, she was getting a bottle service, she was, meeting celebrities.
So that's quite early in the relationship then. So she must have got used to that sort of like lifestyle pretty quickly.
Yeah. I think for sure. And then when that was the social circle change that kind of happened was there was people that I didn't want to hang out with anymore because they weren't going to go to bat for me the way that I would or had gone to bat for them. And then that means like less parties, less nightclubs, less meeting celebrities and stuff like that, because I just I didn't want to socialize with certain people anymore.
Yeah. And like I say, it's whenever I hear any stories like this, and yours is quite a sort of extreme one in some ways because of just the level of success that you'd achieved. But whenever I hear any story like this, I always just feel that sense of disappointment in my stomach because I just kind of think that wasn't how it was meant to be.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things that I've had to learn to let go of in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
and it's honestly why I haven't. It's been a while since I released the last book because reading through my old journals, it's not easy. Like it's kind of it's emotionally draining to read through that stuff again. Like, oh, you fucking idiot.
Yeah. Well, there's something I wanted to ask you about, which is vetting, because a lot of guys talk a big game about vetting, particularly guys who are like traditionalists. You get these dudes on Twitter and they're saying, no, you just got to find a good woman and wife her up and all of this. And you say, yes, but a lot of marriages end in divorce, 50% marriages end in divorce, 70% are started by the woman, etc.
And the ones that don't are a lot of times have zero sex evolved and they're very unhappy people.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the thing. But these guys, and then if you say to these guys, well, look, 50% of marriages end in divorce, so what are you going to do about that? They say, well, you just need to vet her properly first. You just need to make sure she's a high quality woman.
I vetted for 7.5 years, and you will put on blinders to the red flags. You will make up excuses because you'll have this one-itis mentality, and you'll excuse your way past it, and you'll not see what's going on. You'll pretend it's not there.
Yeah, the other thing that I always think, right, and I haven't been married. I've managed to avoid that, but I've been in like long-term relationships and stuff. But one of the things that it occurs to me is like, as much as, in the early stages of any relationship, she's going to behave herself, probably. You're going to behave yourself because you're just getting to know each other and it's nice. You're in that honeymoon period. But what you don't know is how she's going to react under stress or when circumstances change. And you don't know how she or anybody is going to react in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years time. This is the problem, isn't it? However much you vet at the beginning, how do you know those things?
Well, me looking back, there was plenty of comments and signs that would have showed that she was okay with a lot of things like divorce or whatever. Okay. If they're constantly making comments about, making excuses for their friends cheating, if they're constantly like explaining, this why this divorced lady was right to divorce her husband and take all his shit and take the kids, like you gotta pay attention to those things. And I clearly wasn't, and I thought she was just joking, or she doesn't know anything, she's young. You write it off. But like, if the person holds these values deep in their heart, like it's okay, it's a problem. And one big sign that I should have listened to was I had a friend who was dating a BPD girl and was doing this crazy shit to him, and it was awful. And she kept defending the girl.
Right. Okay.
Coming to kind of finding ways to like, well, maybe he should have done this. I'm like, she's dating a clearly crazy person that you don't even know, and you're taking the crazy person's side over our friend of like a decade.
Yeah.
that should be a high ticket item of red flag. Yeah. I guess there are a few things like that are gonna, I suppose, in hindsight you see them. But like you say, the other massive problem here is that we blind ourselves to those things because
we're in love or whatever, whatever you want to call it. We're in that honeymoon period, and it's just like you don't allow yourself to see it.
Well, you want to believe I mean, the Matrix analogy, the red pill, blue pill thing, the guy who wants to go back into the Matrix, he wants to take the blue pill again. Like, it's a great story. It's a really fun story. It's nice. It's pretty. It gives you a lot of hope. Like I grew up thinking the Princess Bride was going to be a real thing, and I was going to find true love, and it's a trap. Like, it's an ugly way to look at the world, but you're going to be happier and your life's going to be better if you just accept reality for what it is. I always advise people to, if you're on Instagram, go and follow, what is it? Nature is Metal. I think that's the tag, right? Because it's just pictures and videos of animals tearing each other to pieces. That's reality. That's life. Like, you need to accept that's what life is. Like, the gazelle gets eaten. If the gazelle gets away, the lion starves to death. And you see that, and you have to be accepting of that. That's just life. It doesn't make it good or bad. You just have to go with it. So I think the blue pill fantasy is a cope that helps people deal with how brutal reality really is.
Yeah, like you say, it's a nice story, isn't it? It really, really is.
It's a wonderful story. I miss it sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for me, when I say I always had this element of red pillness. It was because my parents divorced when I was a kid, and so I saw that marriage break up, and then my dad remarried to another lady, and she had, she was a challenging woman, let's say, and then that relationship went south, and so I saw all this stuff firsthand in my own family. So in one sense, I was never like, oh my God, marriage and family, it's like, and kids, it's all so amazing and beautiful. But on the other hand, you also kind of want to believe that, don't you? And I mean, the other thing is, we're probably a similar kind of age. We're both born in the 70s, and it's sort of like we probably saw a lot of the same movies and TV shows and stuff growing up, and it just all reinforces it, doesn't it? All of those 80s movies, high school movies.
I mean, and you like in high school, and your friends start dating girls, and they get pussy whipped, right? Yeah. Like, that's just how it is, Yeah. Why? That's not how it's supposed to be. But like, that's what you can condition into thinking, because that's the way it is right now. But that's not how it was for millions of years through our evolution. Like, it's a very small, tiny window of human existence that we've lived a certain way with this ideology. And I don't think it's just a coincidence that things seem to be falling apart so much in the West these days.
Well, yeah, exactly. Particularly at the moment, by the looks of things.
Well, I think it's coming to a head. I think we've been overly feminized. The way our thinking is all emotional and feminized, and I think that leads to bad decisions, because people choose emotions over reality. They choose emotions over logic and reason. Well,
yeah, and I mean, look at the response to COVID. I mean, without delving too deeply into that, but I mean, was it the right decision to close down the entire planet for months on end? I mean,
for such a low risk thing. And rather than isolating those people at high risk, which seems to me would be the rational, logical path. Let's not shut everybody down to protect the vulnerable. Let's make sure the vulnerable are put away and safe, and they're quarantined, and they have their masks, and they, are in the best situation possible. That seems like that would have kept the economy from crashing, and it would have probably kept more people alive. I mean, Cuomo put a bunch of people in an old folks home when they were sick. He killed like 11,000 people. Wow. That dude needs to be on trial for manslaughter.
Yeah, we had similar sort of situation over here in the UK, but I mean, just incredible, really. And obviously, I mean, it's ongoing, isn't it, with all of that? But I mean, what were you, out of interest, what were you like in high school? Were you sort of like, because obviously, great looking guy, you're still in amazing shape, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, were you kind of like you were obviously a sports guy all the way back.
I put all my time and energy into athletics and sports. I wanted to be a professional athlete since I was in the first grade, kindergarten. I think I remember the first day they asked what you wanted to be when you grew up. I think I was a football player. And I had based my whole life on playing professional football. So I was always training, always working out from a young age. I started wrestling in the 4th grade. I started playing football in the 4th grade. Yeah. I started lifting weights after 7th grade. So I was always in pretty good shape, always about playing sports, always competitive and wanted to win. But like, you absolutely had no clue with women, had no idea.
Were the women kind of queuing up though? Because were you kind of like the jock sort of archetype?
Yes, but I didn't know how to keep them around.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to close. I didn't know how to close and whatever. So, I mean, I had girls. I did okay. I didn't have sex until I was 18. And then I had like a year break until I had sex again. But, so I didn't put a lot of time and energy into girls, but I didn't understand them at all. I didn't know.
Yeah. I mean,
how to play the game.
And that's the issue for a lot of us, I think, because it's sort of like there do seem to be a sub sort of sector of guys who do kind of just get it, and they are like naturally.
Yep. I had my buddy Doug. He passed away like last summer, but he was a natural, and man, if I would have just paid attention to what he was doing, but he told me one day, he's just like, man, you can't tell him your life story on the first day, know, like, and I didn't understand that for a while, but now I realize like the genius of what he was, because he was one of those guys who just all the girls wanted. Like, he knew how to handle women and juggle women, and man, he was on another level, honestly. Yeah. I wish I would have paid a lot more attention to him, because I was kind of bitter about it because he was so good with women. And then now, you get a little older and you start realizing like the genius of what he was able to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about this is that a lot of this stuff is learnable. So if you because I always used to operate in a very blue pill kind of way, I guess, with girls right at the beginning. And then, a lot of things changed and shifted, particularly. And I know that you read The Game by Neil Strauss, particularly after I read that, and things started to shift quite quickly. But what I discovered was that just by doing the actions, like acting like that guy, even if you're not actually necessarily that guy at the beginning,
it's all technique. Like that's what blew me away by that book, The Game, is like, I was like, oh my God, this is techniques. This is like jujitsu. Like, you're using techniques. So it's about drills. You have to drill the technique to internalize it. And then you don't have to think about it. When I'm out into a fight, like, I'm a black belt. I've been a black belt for 12 years. I've been fighting for 18 years. Like, when I go out into a fight, like, I don't have to think about the techniques I'm doing. I just react. But like, it didn't just happen overnight. It came from hours and hours and hours of drilling. I did reps after reps after reps until my body internalized the movements. And now I just react. So like, it's no different with game and talking to people. And like, and I have zero experience with approaching, really, but I've developed my game online and through the apps, because I as a dad, I don't have time to just go out and try to meet chicks. So I have to like prep it, because like, I have my Wednesday night to go out and have dates. Like, I don't want to go and look for dates on my night off.
For sure. Yeah.
But it's definitely something I hope to learn.
Well, I always say to guys, I think really just doing a bit of everything is the best way. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with, there are some purists who are just like, no, I only do day game. I only do daytime approach. That's it. I don't do dating apps and stuff. And I just think, why not use the dating apps? Because that's where the market is now. I mean, so, dating apps, and then occasionally, like Rich Cooper will say, if he sees a girl in the laundrette or the dry cleaners or whatever, he might chat to her. And
well, I mean, it's honestly, it's now it doesn't even have to be like a creepy thing of like, oh, I'm out scouting for chicks. Just I am a human being out in the world who's curious, and I want to have fun. And talking to people is fun. Like, getting to know, like, hey man, what are you doing? What's up with those shoes? Like, where did you get that jacket? Like, anything, like in the elevator, having a conversation with somebody. And it shocks a lot of people, that you just like, but it's fun. And usually it's a good experience. Usually they light up, like male, female, whatever. Like, it doesn't have to just be girls you're talking to. It doesn't have to just be beautiful women you're talking to. Like, anybody. Like, I'll talk up the girl at the post office just to practice talking to a human being and seeing like what I can find out about this person. How's your day going? What's the mail like? Like, how are you guys doing with everything? Yeah. What do you think of these lockdowns? You mean, it's just start a conversation. It's fun. Like, it makes life way more interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's I think it's like a perfectly natural thing to do. And I mean, you want to be talking to everybody, really. I mean, like you talk to the guy in the corner shop, the bodega, you talk to the guy in the, the barista, the Uber driver, whoever it is, you're just having these conversations with people. It makes the day more fun. And then you start, and sometimes you'll meet people organically. I was out with a friend. I was out with a friend last week, and we were in a cigar place, and we were smoking these cigars, which I don't do very often because I finished smoking now. But it was quite fun, and he just got chatting to the waitress, and he got her Facebook, and it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't some big creepy like, right now I'm going to go and do some game.
Yeah,
it was like it was just like part of the evening,
Yeah, you're just open. You're open to experiences, and you're living. You're having fun, and that's attractive to women. Like that. Yeah. You're like, oh wow, this guy knows how to socialize. This guy knows how to talk to people. That's a big attraction for a lot of women.
Yeah, absolutely. So
like going back a little bit to the blue pill kind of stuff. Like one thing that I never did for 38 years of my life was date more than one woman at a time because I thought it was wrong. Right. Because that was 100% social, just conditioned thing. Like society tells you like, oh, you're a dirtbag guy if you're going to date two girls at the same time.
Yeah.
And not thinking at all. I told this to a 16-year-old kid talking about it. I was like, dude, you think the girls you're talking to are only talking to you? And his eyes was like he could not conceptualize like, oh my God. I was like, dude, she's got at least 8 dudes in her DMs talking to her every day, telling her she's beautiful and stuff. He's like,
yeah.
Like he could not, he was processing it. I could see like his brain just exploding.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing. A lot of these techniques, if you like, that we talk about are just things that girls do anyway. Like a girl is going to be spinning plates at the beginning. Or she's going to be like, at least she's going to be talking to multiple guys, until
even though it doesn't have to be like hooking up. Like it's just an attention factor. They feed off of attention. So like they're going to have a few guys that are propping them up all the time.
Yeah.
The little cheering squad.
Yeah. But unfortunately for a lot of us, it's sort of like after you've got burned, in some way through a marriage or a relationship or whatever, you come out the other side and you sort of you almost harden up a little bit, don't you? In a sense, it's like, right now I'm going to put myself first in these situations.
Yeah.
But when you got into UFC and you started to become, successful and famous and the money came in and everything, then again, you talked about this on another stream, but then the girls started to flock, or at least they started to sort of like approach you a bit more. Could you talk a bit about that? What it's like to actually genuinely be somebody in the limelight who's getting that unsolicited attention?
Like, man, so I didn't even really get to enjoy the peaks of my my fame in the dating market because I was already with somebody. So my that 15 years of that was me with one person. So I didn't even really, but I got to see a lot of things happening, which is a lot of game theory type stuff, which is, a fan brings his girlfriend to an exhibition where there's what do you call it? Where there's the booths and clothes and whatever. People walk around, get autographs, people take pictures with whatever. You'll see a guy come with his girlfriend during the day or whatever, and then she's getting pictures with famous fighters or whatever. And then you go to clubs later that night, the girlfriend's out, but she's not with the boyfriend. She's with some of the fighters that she met at the expo. So like you're seeing a lot of these dynamics of like,
the
hypergamy like firsthand. Like before I knew what it was called, like you saw it like big time. Guys who brought their low level fighters who brought their girlfriends to events where there were bigger named fighters at, and saying you see the same shit. You see that girl swinging from that fighter over to the higher status fighter all the time. Like that was like probably the number one thing we would joke about all the time is like these idiots that bring their girlfriends to these things. Thanks. Because it's just easy fish in a barrel at that point.
Yeah, that is. And again, it's kind of as used as you are to these sorts of stories, it's always kind of disheartening when you hear another example, isn't it? It's always a bit like, oh, fuck's sake. But I mean, Well, here's a question, right? So, you know, the old thing about not all women are like that. And then the idea that all women are like that. I mean, do you think it's inevitable?
There's nuance to it, but yes, they are. Like, it doesn't mean that she's going to go out and have sex with this person, but she may give attention to somebody because of that. Like, it may just be like she spends the afternoon giving a lot of attention to this one person because he makes her feel a certain way because he has this higher status than the guy she's with. Then she'll go back to her guy or whatever. But it doesn't always have to be like a sexual thing. There's a lot of nuance. There's degrees to, like, you know, the girl who just will text message somebody because that's enough to boost her ego versus somebody who will, like, drive 3 hours in the middle of the night to go blow a dude and then go back to her husband and children.
No, I agree. I think that it's a little bit of a misconception to say that every single woman under every single circumstance is definitely going to cheat. I mean, that's just
there's levels of attention that the girls will give to get.
But in the end, I mean, on another level though, it's sort of like, why is this really surprising to us? Because, like you said, I mean, we're human beings, we're animals. We all want the best deal for ourselves. You know, guys ultimately would like to get the best kind of looking girl that they could get. They want to get the sexiest, the hottest girl that they could get. And women are the same. So in a sense, we shouldn't be surprised about this, but it's just the way that it's been portrayed to us through movies and TV shows and stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, I read somewhere once, somebody wrote, it's sort of like it's the big thing about red pill awareness, or whatever you want to call it, is not so much that, oh my God, women are so, you know, different and kind of strange and not what I thought. It's more like, actually, they are quite like men in many ways, which is to say they're opportunistic and they want to get the best deal that they can get in any given situation.
Well, I think it's important to remember that our lizard brain, our animal self, only has two main priorities. Okay, and that's one is to survive, and two is to reproduce.
Yeah,
that's the baseline of all of our existence as an animal. Like, and you can break down and understand a lot of things if you can accept and understand that that's what it is. Why did this person make this choice? Well, probably because it was going to add to their survival, or it was going to add to their ability to reproduce. And that's a lot of what these women are choosing, and that's what the hypergamy is all about. Is the woman needs a strong man who has strong social circles, has the ability to provide, has strong genes. That's going to help them survive, and they'll make a lot of things that we think are messed up or wrong or evil choices based off of that. And if you can accept those things, you can plan a lot more accordingly, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, it's always about just trying to be realistic about life. It's about looking at life and saying, well, what is taking away the pretty lies and the Disney, what is the reality of this situation, and how do I then approach it in order to try and get the best outcome that I can get, you know?
But I can do. It's like we're riding in the ocean. Like, you know, we can either fight against the current, wear ourselves out and drowned, or we can manipulate the current and sail wherever we want to go.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, on the plus side of it, there are amazing opportunities for guys, you know, in 2020 and beyond. That, you know, like our fathers and grandfathers and stuff, you know, would just have had no access to. And the other thing as well is, it's worth pointing out to viewers of this show, I mean, both of us are in our 40s. And so, you know, the idea that, I mean, and it's spoken about a lot, but it is very true, isn't it? The guys have a much longer lifespan in terms of this
I'm still in my prime. I'm a little bit limited on the dating apps because girls will just see the 42 and not want to swipe on the 42. Or I'll match with a lot of girls and I'll open and they'll be into me. And I know that they went to research me. Right. Because I put my Instagram and stuff on there, and then they're like, oh, well, he's 42 with 2 kids. And, you know, I mean, that's fair. But, you know, I know that if I meet people in person, like I have no problem with, you know, closing on a 22-year-old or getting a number or whatever. So in person is completely different than online. It's too easy. There's too many disqualifiers when there's that online burial. Yeah. But I'm not mad about it. I've had girls just not show up when they found out I had kids or whatever.
Well, you know, but it's.
Well, I mean, I'm not mad because I'm the same. I'm not interested in single moms. So like, if I have no problem with you not being interested in me because I'm a single dad. I get it. Like, it's a pain in the ass. I don't want to deal with mixing our timetables. So it's like, oh, what days do they have kids? What days doesn't they have kids? Or it's a pain.
Yeah, for sure. Although, I mean, I think it's worth saying that the issue, women don't have as big an issue, I don't think, with a guy having kids as the other way around. I think it's more, but one other thing that I wanted to touch on was when you were talking about when things started to go south with your wife, and she was sort of saying, because you met her obviously when she was very young, when she was 18, and then she was kind of saying things like, well, I didn't get to experience, the full buffet of life.
She didn't get to do all these things. Well, because it was like, the second we got married, the whole attitude shifted from like, I'm the great guy to like, she had me, so she didn't want me. It's like, I never wanted to get married. I never want to have kids. Like, all my friends are getting to do all this fun, cool stuff, and I don't. And like, I'm looking at her friends like, this is sad. Like, they're like winos who like have no direction in their life. And to me, like, the stuff she was like, oh, this is so exciting and so cool. I was like, that's really sad. So there's a real split. But I think that's, women tend to be more agreeable. So if their social circle is all saying that this is cool, like, they're going to agree and go with it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember having a girlfriend. I mean, this was a long, long time ago, but something similar. Well, a sort of like a bridge version, but something sort of similar to that happened in the sense that, we got together. I think she was like 19 or something like that. I was in my early 20s. We were together. It was the longest relationship I had, actually. We were together for like 4.5 years or something like that. And, and towards the end of that relationship, it should have ended a lot sooner. But anyway, towards the end of that relationship, she was saying things like, yeah, but I didn't get the chance to explore my sexual, and all this kind of thing, which is, of course, a terrible dagger in the heart, to when you're the dude.
It's like, the idea that they regret not being a hoe.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Yeah. Like, that's the next level, I think, social brainwashing right there. But the idea of sleeping with a bunch of random loser dudes is somehow better than committing to the peak male that you can get. I don't understand that. Like I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, make any sense to me.
And I mean, at the time, in my sort of relative like blue pill state or whatever you want to call it, I just thought, well, like, but we've got something good here. I mean, it actually wasn't that good, and we should have split up. But putting that to one side, I was thinking, but we've got something quite good here. There's a relationship here, and now you're saying, actually, I wish I've just got with some random guys instead. It's kind of like, well, how does that work out? But that's where that sort of
so like being with a bunch of random dudes was somehow better than being with me, who's like put his whole life into being the best possible version of myself. I've like raised myself up to be like elite status in everything I do. Like, if I put my hands on it, I'm doing it to be the best at it. Like, that's something like not as good as sleeping with a bunch of random dudes. Like, to me, that's an insult. And like, that's one of the reasons why, like, I have a hard time dating girls past a certain age, because it's like their body count's so high. I was like, why would I want to lower my status by sleeping with somebody who sleeps with anybody?
Yeah, exactly.
It's an insult. It's an insult to the effort that I've put into my life.
Yeah. We just had somebody in the chat, somebody called Stinky Cheese in the chat, who was saying, "Is this where all the misogynists on YouTube hang out?" And I was like, "Well, no. Actually, I'm not. I'm not a misogynist. I mean, I have great respect for women. I love women. I have many women in my life, and I love women. However, I just think we should be allowed to talk honestly about experience and how things actually are. I don't think that's about
reality is reality. I mean, people can live in their cope world if they want to, but like we've seen the reality of the world and not afraid to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we were saying earlier, I mean, it is nuanced.
We haven't even said anything inflammatory or insulting towards women in any way. The only thing I said that I don't like the idea of me putting so much hard work and effort into my life, and then I'm gonna like lower myself by sleeping with a girl who will have sex with a homeless dude. Like, like, why would I want to lower my status? Why would I want to insult myself and my efforts in my life like that? I want to be with people who are doing the best job they can to be the best versions of themselves, to hold themselves to a high level. And I don't go around trying to have sex with low status women. Like I'm not out there hanging, trying to have sex with big heifers who have, no life and are losers. Like I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to date and be around losers. So why should the girls I'm dating, why should that be okay for me to accept them after they've put themselves in that position?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a lot of double standards in some of this.
There's so many thirsty dudes out there who never get to experience women at all, and they're the ones who are the ones calling everybody else a misogynist because they're just jealous because they can't even get a girl to talk to them.
But I think the key thing about your story for me is that, you've got certain key elements here which crush a lot of dreams, I think, or pretty dreams in a way, because you were somebody, for a start, you met a girl who was very young, who I assume probably hadn't had much previous experience.
Yeah, very low notch count. I was looking for it. That was one of the reasons why she was, somebody I would commit to.
And she was first generation US, wasn't she? So she came from
so she was very, family was pretty traditional. They're, Catholic, and I thought that checked a lot of marks off the list as far as strong, healthy family. They all looked good and worked hard. Yeah. And you were also obviously a high value guy, and you went on to great success. So with all of those things together, you would think, well, there should have been no problem here. And yet, after a while, she started to, be dissatisfied or whatever. And, ultimately the thing came to an end, which is obviously really, so, I'm sorry that you went through that. And that's obviously, a terrible experience. But very disheartening, really, for everybody, because it's kind of like, well, if this happens to Jon Fitch, then what's the chance for any of the rest of us? Do you know what I mean? The problem was I was operating under a false premise. I was operating under the blue pill premise, and that was the problem. If I would have maintained and had a red pilled mentality through the whole situation, it would have went way different. Because a lot of the problems were letting her lead. Like I became the financial situation came about because she first she bullied me into giving up control of the money. So she took over paying bills and the bank account. That was a huge mistake. And then the next one was she pressured me into buying a second home when we didn't need to. I already had a condo. We should have stayed in the condo. We should have wrote out the economic bad stuff that was happening, and we would have been fine economically. Like I wouldn't have had the same stress and pressure going on, and I wouldn't have had to take fights injured because I felt like I needed to because of money. And there was just a lot of things that cascaded down a negative path because I went from being the strong alpha who I'm leading and you're on for the ride or you're gone to what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Okay, let's do that. You go. You tell me what we should do. And that's where, the blue pill mentality will really destroy you.
Yeah, for
You're
sure. Because
no longer your center point of origin.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the other side of this equation is that this isn't to say that every single marriage is going to fail. And obviously there are marriages that do work out. People do kind of manage to.
My parents have a great marriage, and that there was kind of like one of the reasons why I thought marriage is one. My family, like divorce is very uncommon. Like it's just really? Not. Yeah, like even my friends. I think I had one friend growing up who had divorced parents.
Yeah.
It was completely foreign to me to even think about what a separation or a divorce. That didn't make any sense.
It does seem to be the case that when you think about one's parents, I think there is a generational advantage, though. I think the pressures that are present now are different to what it was like back then. Because when my dad first got married at 24. And my mum, I think, was 20 when they got married, and so they were very young, and they ultimately did end up divorcing. But actually, the expectation at that point was, no, you get married, you have a family, and you're together for life. And it was still coming from that sort of like almost 1950s kind of expectation. But now we're in a situation, and I think you said it on somebody else's stream. I come from a time when women didn't send unsolicited pics of their vaginas on social media, which is quite a good line. We're just in a different environment now, aren't we?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that is. Oh man, yeah, it's happened. Unsolicited. Yeah, like what's going on? Like unsolicited. I don't even know how to process that. Like any nudes being taken. Like I don't want any nudes sent to me. Like I don't need that. Like the girls hit you with the Cash App sometimes when you match, and just like the internet exists. If I want to see boobs, like I can type boobs into Google and there's billions of them. Like I don't need to pay $5 or $20 to see yours.
Yeah. But no, I thought that line was quite funny because again, I'm obviously similar kind of age, and I thought I'm actually from that time as well when unsolicited vagina pics were the thing. But
hey, big boy.
But the environment has just totally changed now, hasn't it? With these dating apps, with societal, like I don't know what you want to call it, permissiveness or whatever. It's just it's just a very different time, and no
accountability for women at all, and there's no harsh accountability for men.
It's always seemed to me very hard to think, right, if you're going to go into a marriage, and guys have whole blogs and websites and YouTube channels about being married and being red pill, and it's always sort of like we've got a whole frame 24/7 and for the next 50 years and everything. And it's sort of like I get the concept, but it's a lot of work because now
anything good is going to be work. Anything good in your life is going to take a lot of work.
True.
So I mean, and that frame isn't just in the relationship, that's your life. Like you need to maintain your frame for your life. If you're in business, if you're in sales, if you have an employer, like you need to maintain your frame no matter what. Like who are you as a person? What are you? Are you easily swayed by outside forces? What is that? It's that Confucius thing. Like a great rock is not disturbed by the rain or with some other shit. I don't know. I can't remember. But it's like whether you're having people say bad things about you or good things about you, you shouldn't be bothered by anything. You need to maintain your frame.
Yeah. I mean, what I meant was that but at the same time, if she gets pissed off because of something that happens or you have an argument, then she could be on her phone and she could be on, seeking arrangements or something within 2 minutes. And, like there's a lot more of that temptation and availability. Unfortunately around these days.
That's what I said. There's no accountability. So it's okay. If you don't give her something she wants and she's like, all right, fuck you, and then she goes and cheats, like everybody will applaud her.
Yeah, I know, which is
that's a problem. Like if the guy does the same thing, like he's a piece of crap, but it's okay for the girl to do it, and then she gets applauded.
Exactly. Which, in my view, is why it's important for guys to learn about this stuff and also to learn some, social dynamics techniques and things, so that they've got options, right? Because and it's not about being an evil and predatory person. It's just like
It's also that you have you also have the government is playing a large part in relationships too. And that is scary. So you have to be aware of how the government plays a role in these things too. So like, I'm still like pro marriage, pro relationship, pro having children and raising families. But like, I don't really see the purpose in involving the government in your relationship anymore. Like why get a marriage license? Why do this official thing? But I mean, you have to protect yourself from the law. Like even like the whole Rich Cooper had his whole thing on the chick in Canada who wasn't married to the guy, who didn't live with the guy, sued him, and now she's getting $50,000 a month for spousal support because like he provided a life for her, and now they're saying, oh, he has to maintain that life for her now that they're broken up. So like the law is not your friend. The law is very rigged against you. So if you're not taking that into consideration, you're setting yourself up for a lot of heartache.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, you've just got to be aware of the terrain, and you've got to sort of plan accordingly.
Where the currents are taking you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we are coming up on the hour, so I don't know how much more time you've got, John. I don't know if
questions or anything from.
If anyone's got any questions for John, and you'd like to stick them in the chat, or I tell you what I can do. If anybody, we haven't got very much longer, but if anybody wanted to come into the stream, I can put the StreamYard invite into the chat as well. You can come onto the. You can come into the stream with us as long as you've got a good internet connection and you are not sort of like walking down the street or something like that. If you fancy coming on and asking John a question, that would be great, or just type it in the chat. But yeah, beyond that, going back to Frame, because obviously now in your sort of like retirement from fighting, you're now developing this other side of your career in terms of like talking about these issues amongst others and helping guys. And I saw like maintaining Frame was one of the things you can teach. But do you want to talk a little bit about your direction now in terms of where you're going forward?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got a lot of things going on. I'm going to do, I'm a teacher. I've been teaching since I was in junior high. Like when I was a wrestler and I was teaching younger kids how to wrestle, like I've been instructing and teaching. I have a degree in education from Purdue University. I was going to be a teacher at a teaching license in Indiana. So like I've been helping people learn for a long time. So I'm going to be doing a lot of online courses and stuff like that. I'll be doing seminars. I'm gonna put together, I think, a company to help with this marketing stuff for a lot of fighters, and I'll probably end up expanding that to other people too. But I just think there's a need in the market right now for MMA. I'll be doing those things. I'll be doing some public speaking and stuff. And it's masculinity. It's all about masculinity and the positive aspects of masculinity. There's not enough masculinity out there. People need to learn how to be masculine, what that means. And there's some pieces of masculinity that get overlooked a lot. I think mastering violence, mastering your emotions, and mastering health, both mental and physical, mastering your finances, mastering relationships, both networking with the friends and networking on a professional level. Those are all part of being masculine. And I think people need help because there's like 40% of the guys in the U.S. today, 40% of children aren't born. They don't have any men in their lives, right? They're single mothers raising them. And I'm not trying to point a light on single mothers as bad, right? But like the absence of men in people's lives is a bad thing. And then a lot of guys are really soy and really feminized, and that's just as bad or worse than not having a man around at all. And I think the world will be better if we can bring some masculinity back and bring some reason and logic back. Yeah,
absolutely. Got a question here from Oho who says, and maybe this links a little bit into the thing about violence, which I know you said you'd be talking about at Rule Zero Live. So I don't know whether you can like segue a little bit of that into this, but he says, you talked about the instinct killer on Rule Zero. How do you embrace and control your anger and use it to your best advantage in game?
So anger, like, really is something you need to deal with and control, because you shouldn't be getting too angry about things. If you're emotionally like angry, like you feel that in your stomach, like what is doing that to you? Like what has happened to you that's bad? Somebody cut you off. Somebody bought a grocery or something you wanted. Somebody said something mean. Like you really need to reflect on why you're angry. What is it you're angry about? Take a step back and take a look at that. I'm only going to get angry if somebody touches my kid. I'm going to get angry and something's going to happen. Okay. But like if somebody says something about my hair or says I have a stupid shirt on, you need to rank these things. Like, is it a slight annoyance or is it actual anger? And you need to get a control of that. You need to step back and look at why you're angry. That stoicism is a great thing, because it basically tells you to disconnect from that feeling and look at it. Why am I feeling this? What is this feeling? Why am I having it here? And then you got to think about your reaction. How I react to this, what's it going to do? Think about first, second, and third order effects of what your actions are going to be. So if you're angry in a game situation where you're trying to talk to a girl and somebody maybe said some shit to throw you off, somebody threw some salt on your game, and you get angry, like that's going to sabotage everything you've been doing. You've got to be able to step back. Why that made you angry? What did they say? What did they do that made you angry? And then you're going to have to deal with your feelings. You're going to have to settle like why it bothered you. And then you're going to have to make appropriate adjustments to how you react to it. Most times the answer is you don't react at all.
Yeah.
You know, if it's not life death situation. And then if it's a life death situation, like I don't want to be angry because I'll make mistakes if I'm angry. I need to be in a good mental place to act.
Yeah. Good advice. We have a question here from Peter who says, Peter DeCosta, thanks Peter for the question. How do you read people? I think knowing the things you know after being in MMA, that's an interesting question.
Well, you laugh at a lot of people because people are very frail. Humans are very frail, and especially people who don't exercise, people who don't train. Like guys, if you train a little bit, if you get to your blue belt in jiu-jitsu, like you can beat the shit out of 95% of the world's population, like without even trying hard. Like you have no idea the big gap between competent and at violence and completely incompetent and useless in violence. Like it's unbelievable how soft some people are. Like I can't believe that the wind doesn't blow them over and kill them. And if you know just a basic amount of techniques and you work out at a basic level, like you can do a lot of damage, you know? So
what would you say the best martial art is to learn for a beginner for, I guess, sort of self-defense, but just having that confidence in order to feel like you got some skills?
Man, so the one that you can do at a live, at a live level where you can go like at 100% at, because most people won't ever have that going back hard and back and forth hard type of thing, an actual kind of battle. So like jiu-jitsu is one of the best ones because it's very controlled and you're less likely to get injured doing it. Wrestling is great too because you can wrestle with somebody and control space and stuff like that. Boxing, kickboxing stuff is good too, but it's harder to get you into hard sparring. Not everybody gets to that level where they learn enough to hard spar. So like throwing punches and kicks and combinations doesn't really translate well if you're not actually doing it to another person.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Like the sparring, like the jiu-jitsu, we call it going live, but it's sparring. You're sparring. Okay. Yeah. So like if you can't at least go 85% with somebody, like it's probably not that good of a martial art. If it's just katas, it's not that great. So like, I mean, Kyokushin karate is great. That's they actually do sparring. They actually kick and punch each other. Jiu-jitsu, Krav Maga has got good techniques, but it's a lot of just practice. So unless you have somebody who puts on the suit, if they put on the suit and you got to beat the crap out of the person in the suit, that can be great. But like, it really comes down to, you got to shop around to different places, different gyms, find instructors and people that you like. And then you're going to need some level of sparring, do the drills and techniques. And then you've got to get the sparring because that's where you really put things together and you start to see the reality of what that situation is going to entail.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. We've got a guy called Samir here backstage. So let's bring him onto the stream. I think he's got a question for John. Hey, Samir, how are you, man? Thanks for joining.
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Very good. Very good. Very good. What's the question?
First of all, I'm going to give you a little bit of background so you know my situation. I was I'm 17 years old, about to turn 18. My cousin introduced me to all of you guys when I was like a year ago, when I was 16. I have read the first book of Rational Male, so I know a little bit of game and stuff and what to improve myself. But Panama is where I live. It's the government's really crappy and I cannot go out. So how do I improve my text game with Instagram and social media?
Whereabouts are you, Samir, out of interest?
What?
Whereabouts are you, out of interest?
Cannot. It's a little bit.
Oh, okay. Okay, fine. Okay, fair enough.
Location.
Fair enough. Okay, no worries.
That's a tough situation, man.
Tough question.
But I mean, at least you have the internet. You can reach out and try to gain people direct messages, just putting out effort, because you're confined into a room, and you got to use the only tool you have, and that's the internet. So I would get on the internet and check out dating apps, find out what all the young people are on. There are a lot of people who are doing TikTok stuff. Man, I can't even remember the other one. I'm such a boomer. The ghost one. What's the one with the ghost? Snapchat. Yeah. Okay. So like you have these vehicles, and I know a lot of young people communicate with them all the time. Online gaming too. People playing video games. They're in each other's chats. They're talking. They're communicating. Like that's just, you're going to have to develop these social networks and practice talking to people as much as possible. Just be inquisitive. Just try to learn. You're trying to learn and figure people out and see why is this person like this? Why does this person believe the things that they believe?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would also say just the dating apps, I would get on as many of the dating apps as you can that are functional in your area. Just get on Tinder, get on Bumble, get on Hinge, and anything else really, and just set up a profile. I mean, there's a lot of knowledge out there about how to improve your profile, how to get it. Normally, it comes down to pictures in the end, because unfortunately, it's just a very visual sort of society and a very visual medium, and so the best possible pictures that you can get, you want to get those on there. And there's a lot of knowledge out there. People like John, Modern Life Dating's got a whole course about it and so on. But in the end, you want to get a profile set up with the best possible pictures you can get, and just start swiping and start like having conversations with the girls that you match with, and just see where it goes. There's nothing really to substitute actual experience in the field. So I would just say set up as many as you can, and just volume. Just swipe as many as you can within your whatever your plan is on the platform. Match with as many girls as possible. Just start as many conversations. A lot of them probably won't go anywhere, but some of them will, and then you'll start to escalate it.
If you're not failing, you're not learning.
Yeah, it's always about numbers. Whatever type of game you do, there's always got to be an element of numbers. Because you're just not going to be every girl's cup of tea. That's just the reality. That's the reality for anybody. So, just work through. You're going to find some that you get a little bit of a connection with, and just push forward with those.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Good luck, Amir.
Good stuff. Great to see you, man. Did you have anything else, or was that the main question?
Oh, that's all. Yeah. Besides that, I just need to practice. Some girls will follow along. Some of them will not. So it's just a matter of.
Exactly.
And dude, you're 17. So like, you're not even going to really look for a partner until you're 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Like you still have a lot of growth and stuff you need to put into place to make yourself the highest value male as you can. Like, sorry, but like until you're in your 30s, you're pretty much worthless.
Yeah, I know that.
Sorry to say it, but like this is the time though that you build yourself. Like when I was 17, I was putting all of my time and effort into athletics and getting strong and getting good at sports. So like, because I knew even back in high school, like I knew that like I didn't really have anything to offer. Like my parents were always home. I couldn't even like, what was I going to do with a girl? Like I could go to McDonald's. Like I didn't have money. So like, I put myself into the position where I would raise myself up to a high status, so that when time was come, it would be easier to get those high level girls.
Yeah, definitely. Building your value is really important at that age. I mean, there's a couple of things that I wish I'd known when I was 17. The first one is that rejection doesn't mean a damn thing. Like I was, I would be attracted to girls in my class at school. I'd be like, oh my God, and then maybe I'd ask one out finally, and then she'd reject me, and I'd be like, oh God, it's the end of the world. It doesn't mean a damn thing. You can get rejected, even if, like I was saying the other day on a stream, even if, say you went to a nightclub and you spoke to 100 girls and you got rejected 100 times in that, and you can't go to nightclubs at the moment anyway, but just say you did, that would still be statistically irrelevant. Like it just doesn't matter. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that it does get easier as you get older. It really, really does. Like John said, when you're 17, you're still very young, you're still growing as a person, you're still building into the man that you're going to become. It really, really does get easier as you go on. So just concentrate on building your value. At the same time, I would still be out there trying. I'd still be swiping and, trying your luck with these girls, but don't make it like.
I mean, that's part of building your value too. Is like you're getting better at talking to people, talking to girls.
Exactly. Good stuff, man. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks to you guys.
Good stuff.
Cheers, man. See you later. Bye-bye. Awesome. Okay. Well, listen, we're on about an hour and 15 now, John. So I know that you've got to go and do some fatherly duties at some point. So
I can hear them out there. They're on their recess break.
Yeah, exactly. So did you want to tell the guys just where they can find you, what you got coming up, and
JONFitch.net is the best way to follow along. I've got my social media and everything. Everything's linked to JONFitch.net. I got a newsletter put out there. I've got stuff up on Gumroad. We got some free courses on Gumroad, and I'm going to start putting some more stuff together, higher end ticket stuff.
Stuff.
Yeah, it's exciting, man. It's exciting times. I'm ready to get out there and start killing it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's fantastic. And we should also mention that you are also going to be speaking at Rule Zero Live, which is on the 2nd and 3rd of October. It's now an online event. So John's going to be speaking, doing his talk about sort of masculinity and violence, I think.
I'm going to talk about the importance of mastering violence and understanding the important. I mean, it's really important to have a level of understanding. I think a lot of people will walk through life thinking that everything's peaceful and this egalitarian lifestyle or whatever is real, and they forget that this is a dangerous environment and bad things happen, and if you're not prepared for it, bad things can happen to you. And more importantly, on an underlying level, if you are prepared for that violence, like your confidence, how you carry yourself, and your frame only just gets stronger.
Yeah, absolutely, man. There's an interesting quick question here from Johnny. Who's the most red pill fighter you ever met?
Oh, man, I don't know. Because some people are hella red pilled, but they don't even know it. Who was it? There's a Brazilian fighter, Cowboy, has he's got three babies mamas, and they all live on the same street.
That's pretty red pill.
Could be him, but I don't know. There's a number of guys. Again, then some guys there's different types of red pills. There's some guys who are politically red pilled, but they're still relationship blue pill.
That's true. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yes.
Yeah. So it kind of depends. There's all kinds of different red pills out there. There's all kinds of hallucinations that people can get stuck in.
Yeah, absolutely. There's different nuances to this stuff for sure. So no, that's interesting. But John, thanks ever so much for coming on. It's been really great chat. It's been great to have you on here, and I've really enjoyed
this was a good talk, man.
Talking awesome. To you, man. So as we're saying, Rule Zero Live, which takes place on the 2nd and 3rd of October, it's an online event. John will be speaking. I'm speaking. Rollo Tomasi, Rich Cooper, Ryan Stone, John Modern Life Dating, Sterling Cooper, the adult entertainment star, Paul as well, who's going to be talking about harems, and there's there's going to be loads of
I'm
stuff.
excited about Paul's talk about harems.
It's going to be strong. It's going to be awesome. So yeah, I mean, there's just going to be loads and loads of stuff going on. The tickets are still available now, but we close at midnight tonight, actually. So if you're watching this now and you want to hear John speak and you want to hear myself speak and everybody else, now is the time to jump on board. So basically, you can buy a ticket off either of us. So you can email me, or you can get in touch with John via jonfitch.net or his social media, and you can get a ticket from him as well. So, but you don't want to miss this, guys, because it is going to be a fantastic event.
Yeah, reach out. You get a lot of speakers for one price, so it's going to be good.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's going to be breakout rooms and little workshops and stuff. So it's going to be awesome. It really, really is. But anyway, thanks, John, ever so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. And we will no doubt catch up again soon. I'll see you again.
Man. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Check you guys later.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in.